my personal favorite on Twitter. I think he was from Germany. I don't remember the account name, but he was driving from X location to X location. I think he was going to a game in Kansas City, and he stumbled upon a Buc-ee's on the way there and was just freaking out.
I saw that as well. Yeah, it's crazy. You know what I mean? We sometimes take that for granted, and they love it. It was awesome.
It was hysterical. That and the barbecue.
The barbecue
hypnotization in Texas was pretty funny to watch.
That was awesome.
Welcome to the Golden Eagle Insider, where it's all things Golden Eagles all the time. Get first-hand perspectives from athletes, coaches, and staff on their journeys in sports inside and outside the lines. Here's your host, Connor Clark.
Welcome back to another edition of the Golden Eagle Insider, episode number 2, coming at you here from our Media Arts studio on the campus of Oral Roberts. My name's Connor Clark, play-by-play voice here for the Golden Eagles, and we are pleased to be joined by the head women's soccer coach here at ORU, Coach Austin Risenhoover. Coach, thanks so much for joining us here today. Glad to have you on.
Connor, what you're doing here is awesome, man. I think the exposure for ORU, the exposure for our women's soccer team, and what you're doing last week with Tim, this week with us, I just want to say thanks for having us.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and of course you guys are doing some pretty awesome stuff out of the pitch, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about your journey here to Oral Roberts. We'll talk about the new field, and we'll talk a little FIFA World Cup too, because obviously that was a big thing throughout the summer as well. But let's just kind of start with, unpacking your journey from, obviously everybody knows that you came from Cal and kind of the high major stops, but I mean, you were a player back then at Bacone, and just starting there. What was that like for you? Because obviously you're in the coaching profession. Obviously, a lot of former players get into that coaching profession. What was that kind of turning point for you to go from, you know what, maybe I do want to be on the sidelines, just in a different capacity down the line?
Well, where it started for me, Connor, was in high school. So I actually had my first club team when I was 17 years old. My dad helped coach my sister's team, so he didn't want to do it anymore, so I did it. So I was a senior in high school coaching freshmen in high school, and I fell in love with it. And then my senior year, I tore my ACL. And then I would see myself go in with my high school coach every morning, and we would just draw on the board X's and O's, and I just fell in love with it. And then as a player, my job was to get the ball to better players than me, which was usually a lot of my teammates. And I knew I felt when I was missing some of my club team games to coach for games that I was playing in, when I was getting tugged to say, man, I would rather be coaching right now. I knew that that's where God had me my career, where I think a lot of people still to this day don't know what they want to do. I've been very fortunate since 17 knowing this is exactly what I want to do. So that started at a pretty early age of going, man, I love this. I want to coach. I want to get involved. And that's kind of where my journey started, with my high school coach that poured into me and met with me every morning, and we started doing that. That's kind of where that journey started. Played a little bit, and then, finished up my degree at UCO because I was, hey, I wanted to be a high school coach. And then a guy named Jimmy Hampton said, hey, I think you'd be really good to help us out with the college. And we did men's and women's. I was coaching third teams in Oklahoma. I was just coaching every day, waking up at 4:30 till 9 o'clock at night. And it was men's session, a women's session, a little kids session. It was just soccer all day. So that was kind of my Oklahoma journey, and just kind of made a name for myself there with high school and being around. And then, had the opportunity to get on at OU with a lady named Nicole Nelson, who poured a lot into me. So I did that. And then, God said, here's a little small school in California. And I'm like, why would I be going to California? Never thought about it. Never thought about leaving Oklahoma. And, I met my wife 3 months after I was there. We were there for 16 months, which was a great experience. Got to recruit in California, and then went to UC Santa Barbara, which then I had a mentor. His name's Paul Stumpf, which really poured into me on how to manage people, how to recruit, which was amazing, right? That was kind of the next journey in my step, because I felt like I was 27 at the time, so I felt like all I'd done from 17 to 20 is coach. So I felt confident in sessions and all of that. And then, I went to Berkeley in the Pac-12. Back in the day, that was the best conference in the world, or the best conference in the country. You had Katarina, Ashley Sanchez, Sophia Smith, like Tierna Davidson, all those kids that you're playing with. And then we had those elite players at Cal, and how to deal with an elite player like that, how to deal with a big administration. Those were kind of the last little steps of my journey before I got here. And as you look through my journey of where I'm at now, God knew exactly what he was doing. I was grinding, coaching little kids to a really big time mid-major, right? At UCSB, we had beaten Texas. Like, we had some really good wins and a really good mid-major, taught me how to recruit. And then the last little piece at Cal, had a great mentor in Neil, who taught me how to deal with elite players, how to recruit elite players, how to deal with administration. So that's kind of my journey. So I'm very fortunate, Connor. I've known that I've wanted to do this since I was 17.
So as a 17-year-old, you're coaching a club team. I would imagine you're pretty close in age with your players, right? If not, maybe even younger than some of them. Yeah. So in that dynamic, how does that work? Because obviously, teenagers playing sports, it can be, well, why is this guy telling me to do this thing when I think I'm, better at this than X, Y, and Z? And just from your perspective, what was that dynamic like? Was it kind of a, hey, I got to win your trust type of thing? Or was it kind of seamless in the sense that, all right, I'm the coach, you're the player. Yeah, maybe we're the same age, but we kind of know our roles.
So when I was in high school, it was my little sisters. So I was 17, they were freshmen, right? So that one was probably, I don't remember a ton about that. That was more of like me just being energetic and out there and this and that. The really cool thing was when I was at USAO in Chickasha, they had guys that were older than me and guys that were better than me. But I think as a player, at the end of the day, and even here at ORU, one thing that I've always really strived is relationships. So I remember we had a guy named Terry from Jamaica, big guy. He was a really good player. But, man, we spent time hanging out, walking to and from the field, and you gain their trust and respect knowing that you love them. They'll run through a brick wall for you. So sometimes at that younger age, it wasn't always necessarily look how smart I am. It was, man, can I build relationships with these guys and girls to get them to run through and do what I'm asking them to do? And, I've kind of changed my motto of, growing up as a player in sports, we were always kind of given tough love.
Right.
Like, it's got to work harder, got to do this. Where I've kind of flipped it, where I want to love tough. I want to love on them first, build relationships. And then if I'm tough on them, like last night at halftime, we were stern. We didn't scream and yell, but we were stern in what we were trying to do. And I think in the second half, you saw us come out. We immediately score. We're doing this. But they know it comes from a place of love. Where that started for me, Connor, back when I was dealing with men that were older and better than me, going, man, if I'm going to get their respect, I've got to show them that I care about their journey. Mm-hmm. And that was coffee. That was the cafeteria. That was walking to and from practice to them, asking them, hey, how's your family in Jamaica? How's your family in Serbia? We had some Serbian boys, your English boys. How is things? And that's kind of where it all started, because then when you tell them to run on that, to go do this, to go do that, they know it's coming from a place of love.
So it's kind of earning that trust factor, almost kind of breaking down the walls a little bit, just because I think the halftime example from last night is a really good one, because obviously, you mentioned to me before the game that you guys have been together since the spring. There's not a ton of turnover. Like, even the newer players have been with you since the spring. And how much easier does that make it for you guys as a coaching staff now that you know that, A, you already got the trust from the players who have been in the program, first of all, and then, of course, you've had some, renewed relationships with some of the players on your team now that you've had in the past as well. So it's almost kind of like a seamless transition from, yeah, you're new, but you're not really new, and we could still kind of love on you, but we can also be a little bit hard on you as well.
Yeah, we do those pro scans with Kevin Burr. We've had meetings. We meet with every player once a week. Right, so we build those relationships, and you look at like a Karis or Elena or Lucy who play in the middle of the field park for us, right? Or Marley and Cammie, like, and Amaris. They've been here for 2-3 years. So even though that journey, you feel like the halftime speech last night, well, Connor, that started 3 years ago, saying, how can I push Marley's buttons? How can I push Lucy's buttons? And now we know the answers to that. So like last night was definitely not a night that they needed to get ripped into. It was, can we fix a few things? So there is going to be a time that when we do get to push that button, and we know when it is, because we do have, like you said, a returning team of seniors and juniors. We have a very older team. So as a staff, we know when, hey, tonight might be the night that we can do this. Tonight might be the night that we love on them. This week might be the week that we love on them a little bit in training. And, last year was one of those things. We didn't lose a game for 2 months. So we were constantly pretty hard on them, right? Because we didn't want to take our foot off the pedal. Well, then when we lost, it was like, hey, let's start a new streak, right? So you pick and choose your moments of when to do that. And you're right. Having this older, mature team, we're able to kind of pick and choose when we want to do it and then how we do it. And this group wants response. They want feedback. They want to win trophies. So they're going to do whatever it takes. And I think as much as you say that we trust them, I know that they trust us as well of going, okay, he's upset at this point or he's loving on us at this point for a reason.
Well, I want to go to a certain point in time when you're at Cal and it's the middle of the pandemic. I'm the kid who's staying up till 2, 3 in the morning playing video games. You're putting together some of the top recruiting classes in the entire country in a time where you can't really connect with a player like you normally would be able to. So just from an overall broad experience, what was that like? Because again, like everybody was thrown off the routines. You got Zoom classes for college students. You've got, Zoom work meetings and, everybody's there but not really there. Just the discipline that must have took not only for you but for coaches around America to, hey, you still got to stay on it because at the time there was so much unknown. Like, hey, when are we going to play again? It could be tomorrow. It could be in 3 months. So just kind of walk us through that.
So, yeah, I'm very fortunate to have an amazing support system at home with my wife, and we had a 3, 2, and 1-year-old. So we had my third child, Hudson, we had him 7 days after they shut down the country. So we were going through that. But the amount of Zoom, the amount of time, I actually felt the reason we were successful with that 21 class is because of COVID. Because we did get to spend time. I did spend a ton of time on Zooms and talking to them and saying, how's high school? How are you going through this? Because at the time, Connor, there was no rule. You could recruit freshmen. So a lot of those kids were freshmen and sophomores in high school. So we were trying to see what type of humans they were. How are they going to be when they get to Cal? So we spent a ton of time on that. And it's made this transition to ORU pretty seamless when it comes to recruiting because, Connor, we have a lot of international kids. So we were recruiting through presentations and Zooms, which is now that's how we got a Precious. That's how we got a Hannah Ernst because of those Zooms and because of that. But, yeah, at Cal, during COVID, we spent a ton of time getting relationships with those kids, which was awesome for when they transitioned in. And we got to spend a ton of time. That's where I felt I grew a ton as a coach, dealing with the Canadian national team, dealing with there's a coach for Aston Villa right now that we got to spend a ton of time with set pieces on. And we just grew a ton. We grew a ton in relationships with those kids, and we grew a ton as a coach. And it all goes back to my wife was phenomenal. She let me still work and go at that. And again, we were in the mecca of it, where we didn't get to hardly leave our house. We were the only Power 4 team in the country that didn't get to train. So relationships with our kids were via Zoom, and we were doing workouts on Zoom, and yeah, it was a lot. But it's helped mold me today, especially for recruiting and especially dealing with these kids, knowing, man, they've been through a lot. So to have some empathy for them as well, that the COVID was very good for that.
Well, forget the recruiting. I can't imagine what it was like trying to have a kid 7 days after the world shuts down.
And I don't remember if you remember, there was all the Northern California fires. So the air quality, we were stuck in our house. I had looked at my wife and said, we got to go to Oklahoma for a while. So we rented an RV with a 2-month-old and drove out here and stayed the whole month of May and just stayed out here because this was a little bit more freeing than where we were at.
I mean, that's a heck of a road trip anyway, but you probably couldn't really stop anywhere cool if you wanted to.
She looked at me one night and says, she told me to keep driving.
Just keep going.
So we made it in 2 days with 3 kids. It was pretty fun.
Nothing a little drive and caffeine. That'll probably get you from point A to point B pretty good. So kind of piggybacking off of that, you come back for a little bit during the pandemic, and then obviously you ultimately move back to Oklahoma, and a place that you're from and very familiar with. So what was it about the opportunity to come back to the state of Oklahoma and, of course, to Oral Roberts that was so appealing to you?
Well, So we'd been offered 4 head coaching jobs before, and my wife was, if you want to go, if you want to do this. And I'll never forget, I was standing up by the soccer stadium with Coach Bush, and we were just talking, and my wife whispered in my ear, and she's like, I can do this one. So as a family, we were in alignment to get back, raise our kids here. We're very fortunate. My family, we all live on a quote-unquote compound, together. My niece and my nephews and my sister, we all running around. So that family was something that was very important to us. But Connor, when I left, none of this was out here. There was no Tulsa Hills. There was no Bigsby. There was none of this. So I was like, oh, man, can I recruit there? Mm-hmm. And then I get here, and I met Tim, and I met the staff, and go, all right, the culture, I feel like we could be successful here. I feel like we could flip this pretty quick, right? Just because of Tim wanting to win, Tim wanting to invest in us, and that's what happened, right? So it was one of those things where my wife and I were extremely in alignment on being here. And then when I got here, just like you would tell a recruit, trust your head and your heart. Mm-hmm. My heart and my head said, listen, you want to raise a family here, and you can win here, right? And you can pour into morally more of our type of kid that we want to be around as a family. Like, we could pour into these kids and affect them for eternity, which has been awesome. I mean, we've had 23 baptisms in 5 years. So that's been very, very awesome for us. So I felt like everything aligned with what we were wanting as a family and what I was wanting as a coach. And I just felt the culture when I was here saying, yeah, Austin, you can be successful in multiple ways, not just on the field.
Well, it's kind of crazy to hear you say that, because you mentioned you come back and all these new areas are popping up, and they exist, and they didn't before. And obviously you're from Oklahoma. As somebody who's not from Oklahoma and just kind of knows Tulsa for what it is right now and the surrounding areas, I mean, how much have you seen the area just kind of explode? Because, yes, the university is the university, but then the place in which it's located also matters a lot, especially to a lot of these international kids that are coming in as well. So, I mean, how have you seen just kind of the overall city and the environment change over those years? Because I feel like you could throw a handful of cities, especially in the southern region of the United States, that are just kind of exploding over the last decade or so.
You're 100% right. Like, I remember we have a young lady named Kinley who's from Owasso. I said, Kinley, when I graduated, they were just now building that Walmart. Now you go out in Owasso and it's massive. So you come here and you're kind of worried, okay, the French kids, you think of Paris and you think of those big cities. They get here and they're like, oh my gosh, this is massive. And I'm like, well, it's a smaller school, you know what I mean, in the city. And you're like, okay, when you think of France, I think of Paris. I'm like, how big is there? But they're in small cities. So they come here and they feel everything's new. It's energetic. There's tons to do around here. So it has definitely helped with recruiting and making sure that those kids come here and they have an experience instead of just a small school out in the middle of nowhere that's only built around the college. So we have the college, but we also have that city life, which when I got here, I felt like, when I left, Bigsby was a 3A high school team. Now it's 6A winning state football, So we left, and this area has definitely been something that we were able to promote, especially for internationals. The safety, the cleanliness, everything's new, has been very, very fortunate for us to get kids from, Ava's from South Carolina to, we've got SoCal kids, we've got North Carolina kids, because it does have a city feel to it. And again, the culture of the school is just attracting people.
It's a really good balance, and for all the international kids out there, a lot of athletes, they like to eat. I feel like there's a lot of good food in Tulsa from a lot of different 100%. Nationalities. So that's something, well, I'm just exposing myself. I enjoy that a lot in the city of Tulsa. But keeping on that international track, too, and that's a big identity of ORU. You pull in the front gates right behind us in this building, and, you got flags of hundreds of nations from around the world, and soccer is a very international game. We saw that with the World Cup in America this year, and just the sheer amounts of people that flew over to watch and be a part of that and create just pretty incredible atmospheres all over the country. And I feel like that applies to your program, Ryan Bush's program as well. The students, especially the international students that come out and support the soccer programs, it's been really cool to see some of the environments. Last night we had to move the game back an hour because it's 1,000,000 degrees outside, and all the bleachers at the Case are still pretty much full.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, I think, the student population. Our kids are pretty interactive with it. I was talking to Prune the other day, one of our French kids, and she's like, wow, we met a lot of other French kids on campus. You know, Hannah, our German kid, has met a lot of other German kids on campus. So having that diversity, it's allowed us to kind of expand our global reach when it comes to recruiting, instead of going, okay, we can only hit these pockets. So we actually, you know, we've had Brazilian kids. I mean, the Brazilian, when we had Marcella, the amount of kids that would come watch Marcella because they were in that Brazilian international club, and we've had kids that worked our camps from Brazil. So we've had Canadians, we've had Australia kids, we've had a ton of international kids. But I think it's also with the school, like you said, there's over 100 flags when you first pull in. So then they can find those little pockets of friends, continue it. And then what does that do? That, you know, I think we had probably 200-300 kids last night in the student section. When we scored, I looked at it on the camera this morning. I zoomed in. I'm like, wow, that was really cool for the kids last night. But you're right. You know, with the World Cup, with the exposure of ORU going international, with our students being really connected with kids on campus, it's been a really cool transition for them as well.
So we take a look at your schedule this year, and obviously you guys have played 3 matches. You've won all 3 of them against Central Arkansas, Rogers State, and most recently UC Riverside. You look at the rest of the non-con, and just from a Summit League perspective, and it depends on, you know, what sport you're in. Obviously the Summit League's been really, really good in soccer, especially in recent memory. But, I mean, you guys have a loaded non-conference schedule. You play Tulsa, obviously, in the Mayor's Cup. Play North Texas here in the coming week. You play Baylor, who's one of the best teams in the country. You play Oklahoma. You get Baylor, Tulsa, and Oklahoma at your place as well. And I think that speaks to some of the success you guys have been able to have, but how much of an advantage is that for you guys to, A, not only be able to schedule so many high-quality opponents outside of the league, but B, and we've talked about this with head coach Ryan Fulmer, the baseball program, a lot, kind of goes the same way with soccer. You guys are in a geographical pocket of a lot of really, really high-quality programs that you don't really have to go too far, and vice versa, to play them on a regular basis.
Yeah, again, it's a testament to what our kids have done, right? They've put a good product on the field. They work hard. You know, they've got our RPI where it need, you know, continuing to grow that. But yeah, you know, Missouri State was picked second to win Conference USA, a very good conference. You know, UCA had Tulsa tied to the last 4 minutes, so they were picked like third, I think. You know, and then you go Baylor right now, who's number 6. You know, OU, who is, you know, top 50 in the country last year. The thing is what I'm excited about is they're wanting to come here as well. So years in the past, it was you guys are only going to come to us. Well, now if you want to play ORU, we'll split with you. You get to come play at ours, and we'll play at yours. And again, having some good friends in the region, they've definitely been able to help us with that. But also, I think it's a testament to our kids putting a good product out there that they want to say, hey, let's go. ORU's going to make us compete. You know, we've been fortunate in the last couple of years to beat OU and OSU in the spring. We've beaten K-State, so they know that we're also going to challenge them, and they're going to challenge us. So we've been very fortunate with that. But I think it's in my opinion, Connor, it's a testament to our kids. It's a testament to the relationships that we've built. I was talking to a really good friend of mine the other day, and he's, you know, on his podcast, he's saying, Austin, that you guys are starting to be nationally recognized. So people are wanting to, you know, yesterday at UC Riverside's wanting to fly into California and going, okay, that's a good game. Let's make sure we get that game. Where I think, you know, in the past, maybe it was, man, if we play ORU, is that going to kill our RPI? Where now they know we're gonna do our best to be successful to help them. And you're right, we do have a really good pocket. Last year we played Arkansas, we played OSU. So we put, next year we have K-State here. So having those teams on campus, I think, is getting us recognition throughout the country. You know, not for only women's soccer, but for everyone. I mean, I remember when Fulham was in the Elite Eight, or in the College World Series, I wore my cap around the airport, and everyone's like, "Oh, are you? Oh, are you?" So I'm hoping that we're kind of doing the same for the university. But I go back to, man, what a product our kids have put out there. They know if you play ORU, we're going to compete and give you a game. So we've been very fortunate with that.
Well, the product you guys have been able to put out on the field, too, it translates to obviously the good opponents, but the upgrades to the facility that we've seen here over, well, the last offseason. You guys have a brand new turf field out there, which looks great. It's got the logos on it and everything. But, again, none of that is really possible without the winning and the effort you and your players have been able to put in. But how much of a game changer has those facility upgrades been for your program? And again, it kind of almost invites those bigger programs to come and play you, or splitting a home and home, rather than, maybe bigger programs kind of overlooking that matchup.
Yeah, so the turf, I mean, Tim and Matt, I couldn't be more appreciative of it. But it goes, like last night, we played, and all my friends from California are watching the game, right? And so they're like, man, look at your facilities, look at the field. Like, is that grass or is it real turf? Or is it grass or is it turf? I'm like, so they couldn't even tell. Mm-hmm. And then Mike last night from Riverside is like, man, I wish we had this turf, because they have turf. And so people are starting to feel that. The facilities, the environment, like people are excited to come be here. But, for us as well, if you've seen us, 2-3 times, our soccer has gone up tremendously, because now we're able to actually do some stuff in a real shape and a real spacing of what we're going to do in the game, where, the practice field was, the grass was awesome, but it was, you could never get as big as you were going to be on the game field. Mm-hmm. And then last year, you didn't want to get in the boxes because you didn't want to tear it up. So now you're only playing 18 to 18. Now it's like you can train in a different way. You can play in a different way. These kids are getting a different experience, because next week we have OU on a Sunday night here, where, club kids and everybody. So that turf has changed the whole experience for the kids, for the staffs, for both staffs. Bush and I, we're able to transition from training a lot easier. It's been an absolute game changer, and I couldn't thank Tim and Matt enough for all the hard work they put in on it.
Yeah, it does look great. You got the big Eagle logo in the middle. You got the script logos on both sides, and the turf there, and then the turf at baseball. They're kind of a hand-in-hand project there, and I think they did a phenomenal job on both of those.
Well, just think about, Fulham says it all the time, think about the time it's saving us. Mm-hmm. So now Jake gets to focus on his roles within the soccer, his roles within the kids, and not sitting on it mowing or fixing the 6-yard boxes, right? He's just dragging it, and then he's done and gets to focus on the kids, which is essentially why we're all here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, and two, it's not just a turf field, but I keep hearing it's FIFA level grade, and it's one of the best surfaces that you can play on. And I'm sure the players are certainly appreciative of the fact that there's no rubber in the field. I think I was told it was wood chips or something like that, so it doesn't get 10 to 20 degrees hotter than it would normally would on a turf. It does look great, and it's been really cool to just kind of see from our perspective too on the broadcast. It looks super professional, and obviously when I think when you go to certain places too, and especially you want to be impressed by where you're playing, and I think people were impressed by where they were playing before the case, and now that whole entire level has just risen. Absolutely.
So the other thing is like our kids, especially our freshmen, they're like, man, this is awesome. We used to leave our high school games and our body would hurt. Now they're like, it doesn't hurt. Mm-hmm. And with the way we want to play, it has more of a real feel with the feel, the Brock filling, and with that, because again, we want to put the ball on the floor and play. Mm-hmm. So that surface is perfect. If you can't play there, you can't play. So that's something we've told our kids, like, if you can't pass and trap on this field, I could understand. We've been on fields a couple of weeks ago, ball bounces, hits you in the knee because the grass is blah, blah, blah. So if you can't pass and trap here, this is going to be on you. So it's really helped our style. I know it's helped Bush's style. It's really helped us continue to develop what we're trying to do, not only off the field, but on the field for these kids.
So speaking of FIFA, we mentioned the World Cup. It was here in America over the summer, which was, for me, as not like a super diehard soccer fan growing up, it was really cool to see just, again, we mentioned it earlier in the show about how many countries just showed out for that and the spectacle that it was. And I think overall, I mean, it was a super positive event in all areas. The final was really, really good and suspenseful. I think one of the games that stuck out to me was that, I believe it was the Argentina-Cape Verde game.
Oh, what a game. That was awesome.
Unbelievable. And everybody I was with was rooting for Cape Verde to win that game, of course, because why not root for the underdog? But, I mean, were there any games that stuck out to you? And, I mean, I don't know how deeply involved you are in the whole Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi conversation, if you want to air your opinion on that.
Well, I'm a Messi
Go
fan.
ahead.
I think Ronaldo. I mean, listen. I think it's kind of like LeBron. Let's just appreciate watching him, right? Instead of comparing him to Michael all the time. Like, let's appreciate watching two of the greatest that have played the whole time. But I'm a Messi fan. You know, for me, it was such a awesome experience. You know, last year was the women's one. So, you know, Marcela from Brazil, and they played USA in the final of the Olympics. So we're joking around. And then you've got Precious from France, who, you know, France was really good. So we're arguing about that. We're joking around with her. And then you got, Hannah from Germany. So we're making fun of her so we've got all this group text about the World Cup. And, you know, that's kind of fun to do that. You know, I was really following Spain. So our methodology and the way we train and the way we develop players is from a program called Tovo, which is a guy that's Johan Cruyff Johan Cruyff's son, who started La Masia with Messi and all them. So our methodology and the way we train and stuff like that is from that. So watching Spain and continuing to see, okay, what trends can we take from what they're doing to try to develop it into our kids, right? Now, again, we can't play like Spain. They've got those players, and they've got those players, and we have ours. So we try and kind of take those trends. So those were games that I really, really loved to follow was Spain, and of course some of the countries that we have kids on. But for me personally, it was amazing because my kids really got into it, Connor. We were in California for 2 weeks over the summer. Grandma bought them the Ronaldo jerseys, so they're watching Portugal, loving it, because when does Ronaldo play? When does Messi play? So for me, it just sparked that interest for my kids. It sparked, banter within the team, and then from just a purist that wants to watch. I mean, we had a ton of games, so learning from each and every team. The Argentina-Cape Verde game, I was with my father-in-law. We were watching it, and man, what a fun game! I think there was. The knockout stages, or not the knockout, the group play, wow, what some games. So it was very, very fun.
It was super entertaining tournament from just top to bottom. And I was on a family vacation in San Diego during the final between Argentina and Spain. And you walk up and down the beach, and even the Airbnbs got their sliding glass doors open. They got the TVs turning. People are gathering in groups just to watch the extra time. And I at least for me, I don't think you necessarily realize it may not be a huge game in America. Obviously, it's growing, but it is the world's game, and everybody is stopping to watch it, which was a really, really cool experience to see, and obviously a great game to go along with it. And Spain with just an unbelievable run throughout the whole thing.
One of my favorite things was watching on social media how many people came over here and then fell in love with America. I saw the Japanese were in Houston, right? So they were eating barbecue, and they you see all these things where it's man, it's a great place. It's a great place to be, and all these other countries came over and fell in love with a lot of stuff that America's doing, and I thought that was really cool as well, especially seeing all that on social media. You're walking in San Diego, we were in Northern California, you see the videos in Houston, you see the Scottish people saying how awesome the people in Boston were. You know what I mean? So I think that was such a cool, positive environment back out to the world about how America really is.
My personal favorite on Twitter, I think he was from Germany. I don't remember the account name, but he was driving from X location to X location. I think he was going to a game in Kansas City, and he stumbled upon a Buc-ee's on the way there and was just freaking out.
I saw that as well. Yeah, it's crazy. You know what I mean? We sometimes take that for granted, and they love it. It was awesome.
It was hysterical. That and the barbecue.
The barbecue
hypnotization in Texas was pretty funny to watch.
That was awesome.
Well, we'll get you out of here on this. I'm a uniform nerd. What do you think the best uniform in the World Cup was? Ooh. Obviously, Argentina's is pretty iconic with Messi and just their history. But there were a lot of good ones.
There was. I think there was the. We were sitting watching the U.S. game. Was it the white ones that we were me and my cousins were watching going, those are pretty cool. So you're right. There was a lot, I think sometimes the African countries have some really cool But I felt like Ghana wore white twice. I don't remember the green one, but I remember going, wow, that USA one, the white one, I'm pretty sure when they were in Santa Clara, was one that I was watching with my cousins going, man, I like this jersey. But you're right. I mean, the exposure, the companies, the jerseys, the Argentina one's pretty iconic. So yeah, there were some pretty cool jerseys for sure.
I'll always remember the jersey that the U.S. wore
with the stars in '94.
I think it was 20. It was like my first first time watching the World Cup. It was 2014 when they beat Ghana and they weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
And it was like the majority red uniform. 12-year-old Connor was begging to buy that jersey at Dick's Sporting Goods. Never happened because they were like $120
for sure.
Anyway, that's the uniform tied to the World Cup. But Coach, we really appreciate your time here today. It's been great to watch your team get after it, and obviously a whole bunch of season ahead, a whole bunch of quality opponents ahead, and we're excited to see you guys take on Oklahoma here in a little bit over a week at the Case. So thanks so much for your time.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate the exposure you're getting for ORU and taking the time to do this for our kids and for the university. We appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Well, that's head coach Austin Risenhoover of the women's soccer program. My name's Connor Clark. This has been episode 2 of the Golden Eagle Insider. Don't forget, you can view it on YouTube at the ORU Sports Network YouTube channel. You can look at both of our faces for 40 to 45 minutes if you do so, please. Or you can listen on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, we're coming at you every other Wednesday on all of those platforms. So stick around all academic and athletic season long for new episodes every other week. So we really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for making us a part of your day, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. This has been the Golden Eagle Insider.